1916 Company. I'm your host, Tim Mosso. Nick is on the switcher this evening. We are streaming live on the internets, and that means we have a live chat going, and Sean Hansen is the first in the box. We got Jim Millett, Arto Charles. Welcome, Enrique Cassiano, Rick on Watches, Jay Parmesan. Welcome to one and all. If you're getting up early, if you're staying up late, if you're watching this in a second or third language, I thank you doubly. Smoko, Jeff S., Nathaniel down in Florida. We got G Mood. We got Andrew T. We got 1776 Mateo, Michael everywhere, who is specifically in Manhattan. Slowboy Fuel Pump. Welcome to all of our friends. So tonight, the best bracelets and watchmaking. It's a question you've asked many times and a show topic originally proposed for the podcast, but because I think you need to show pictures in real time as the discussion proceeds, we're going to do it right here. We're also talking a few of my favorite perpetual calendars, just because we can't have a show that's entirely devoid of watches. So in addition to the bracelets, we're getting those, your viewer wrist shots and live chat tonight on Watches Tonight. While we're warming up, Eric R. from Southern Utah and Vincent S. from Geneva, please join me on my Instagram, Tim_Mosso. We've had a lot of pug content lately, so if you like pug dogs and cars, but mostly watches, you're gonna like my Instagram, where we have a lot of 60-second reviews of the most interesting watches that I find around the office. It is not a mirror of the YouTube feed. This is my curated selection. Okay. What's going on here? Jeff is saying, I would guess there won't be a lot of GS bracelet talk. There is one, but for a very specific reason, and it's not total quality. We've got Bob Dole in the box from Monument, Colorado. We've got Luis joining in. Too much bracelets, Rolex, Daytona, Submariner, GMT, Nautilus, and Speedmaster. Surprisingly, none of those are actually in tonight's show. Scott is joining us from Marion, Pennsylvania. We've got Faisal joining us from Hertfordshire. We got Tack, and we got St. Peter. Okay, let's get started, guys. Wrist shots number one. I asked, you answered. We're going to start with a big one. Reginald V. captures a moment with his Jaeger-LeCoultre Duomet chronograph. He has the lovely yellow gold launch model from 2007. I think alongside my white gold with the white dial, this eggshell dial might be the best Duomet, but I am partial. Eric O continues his Swiss vacation and a tour of the country with his Rolex GMT Master 2 at Lake Bacalpsy. We've got Neil B and his Patek Philippe visiting Rembrandt's Night Watch. Get it? In Amsterdam. We have Seth K preparing for a workout with his H. Moser & C Pioneer center second rotating bezel. I believe that's the 100-piece limited edition. We got Dr. Ben comes roaring back with Daniel Lerotte and his Bentley Bentayga SUV. Guys, send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at the1916company.com to see your passion in this fashion. We've got Amit joining in, asking about the Moser Streamliner bracelet. I'm going to mention that one as an honorable mention. It's not one of the primary awardees, but it definitely deserves to be mentioned here. We've got Simon Holt. We've got Dr. Kevin Moore from Bloomington, Indiana. Kevin C, catching his first live show in a while. Kevin Hernandez joining in from Canada. Time Hill. We've got Emax. We've got Mark S. And we got Rick Warren. All right, guys. So, the best bracelets in watchmaking. This is a topic that comes up often, and it's not an easy thing to answer with a blanket response, because bracelets are like watches themselves in that there are measures of quality almost as varied as those we apply to timepieces. In other words, different standards and different categories of excellence. But if we drill down and identify exactly how a bracelet can excel, we realize that class leaders do emerge. Before we start, let me emphasize that most of the bracelets featured tonight are actually engineered and specified and designed by the brands, in that they say what they want on their product. But at the end of the day, most of them are built and partially engineered, at least on a production level, by outside suppliers, which are going to design the equipment and the production lines and a lot of the supply side engineering of these products. All of which is to say, if you look at a Lange or you look at a Vacheron or you look at a Moser, you're going to be looking at a bracelet and a case and a clasp made to their specs by someone else. And that's often the way it goes in watchmaking, even at brands that are movement manufacturers. Actually making a bracelet turns out to be quite complicated and very specialist, which is why a large industry still exists specifically to provide these kind of components and sub-assemblies. So just keep that in mind. There's usually a man behind the curtain, a little bit of an uncredited, more than an extra, let's call it like an executive producer. Okay, this is important because the manufacture of bracelets and clasps often is uncommon at the OEM level. And I would say quite a few watchmakers, and examples would be like Zenith or Moser, they can even build the fine parts of a watch. Moser makes hairsprings and escapements, for example. What they don't make? Bracelets. So let's meet our champion. Total quality and feel. You might be surprised, you don't need to spend a ton of money here. But the Chopard Alpine Eagle, really every version of it. So I've got the 41 XPS right there, but it could be the chronograph, it could be the classic. This is an incredible bracelet on a lot of levels because eyes closed, if you didn't see the watch, you might guess that this is the most expensive bracelet in a pile that includes the Nautilus, the Odysseus, the Overseas, the Aquanaut, the Royal Oaks. It's that good. And here's the thing, since 2019, all versions of this watch use the same basic bracelet construction. Aside from being handsome, it has less lateral play, that is side-to-side play, than any bracelet I've ever encountered. Take a good look at that fabrication right there. The intermediate links aren't even visible from the top or the bottom. The interlock of primary and secondary links both looks and is extraordinary in the precision of its tolerances. This could very easily be a fragile thing that's easily kinked and marginally flexible, but it works beautifully. It manages to have incredible physical integrity without feeling stiff or crude or in any way unrefined. Despite the size of these pieces and the way they socket into each other, it really is a marvel of manufacturing. From top or bottom, there are no gaps. You can't see wrist hair or daylight through this bracelet. As a result, this bracelet feels more expensive and robust than competitors that cost tens of thousands more. This bracelet wins on feel more than appearance. I'm going to admit that, although the appearance is impressive and executed to a high level. This is not a Piaget Polo S. I'm not quite sure it's as intricate as an Overseas, a Nautilus, or a Royal Oak, but it is outstanding by almost any measure. Every single link in this bracelet is removable for precise sizing, which makes it impressively intricate and complicated because every single link needs additional moving parts. The decoration of the links is excellent. The use of what they call lucent 223 steel, it's indicative of a higher level of hardness. Now, we're not talking hard metal. This is not a Rado Diastar by any means. But on something as vulnerable as a finely finished bracelet, it is nice to know that there's just a little bit more scratch resistance. I would also say that snap shut clasps, and this is a friction fit clasp, it snaps shut and it snaps open. There isn't any kind of a trigger or a clamshell. That's not ideal, but it doesn't impart any fragility either. It's perhaps the only thing you could say I don't love about this bracelet, which overall feels the most substantial and imparts the greatest impression of quality of anything you're going to see tonight. So, Chopard, take a victory lap, and whoever actually makes that bracelet, bow your head. Well done. Okay, we got Raymond in the box joining in from Florida. We got Mirko joining in from Hamburg, staying up late with us. Watch enthusiast Ciao from Como, Italy. Very cool. Are you near Moto Guzzi? What else is going on? Loose Tooth saying older JLC bracelets with 2 easy links on the clasps, quick release lugs, and very comfortable, not quite Jubilee style. A lot of those older, like Master Compressor and Reverso Grand Sport bracelets are even better than you think because what appears to be a pin sleeve assembly is actually an incredibly intricate spring bar setup where every single link in the bracelet can be removed with a strap tool because it's actually a spring bar. It's brilliant, but it wasn't well advertised at the time and it's not well recognized today. Features, a bracelet that gives you the most features. Vacheron Constantin, and it's not particularly close. This is the Overseas Generation 3, and let's be very, very careful to specify only Generation 3. All the bracelets are great from 1996 to present, but only this one is chock-a-block with really cool tricks. And every third generation Overseas, despite the collection approaching a decade on the market, still remains class leading. So intricacy of finishing on each link, within, without, this is favorable when you compare to the likes of AP and Patek, and then miles ahead of absolutely everyone else. I would even go so far as to say this puts to shame the Aquanaut bracelet, and it runs the Nautilus very close, possibly even surpassing it, because if you look at the center of those links, that is some tight confine. Very difficult to impart the sharpness of those polished facets. It's almost like interior angles on a movement. It's that good. And that photo doesn't even really show you the polished shoulder bevel. Also, the quick release system preceded the recent fad for such systems by 5 or 6 years, and it's very easy to use. They even made it better in the last year or so. The bracelet includes a strap set. With each example that has a bracelet, you generally get either a rubber or a leather strap or both when you buy these. So if you get the steel, you get a rubber strap and you get a leather strap. And the quick release allows you to interchange the strap or the bracelet in seconds. It's very user-friendly. And there's a sliding micro adjustment system that sits on each side of the clasp. You see how there's sort of a little shelf below the links? It's like a sleeve. It pulls in and out, and that exists on both sides of the clasp. So you get about 5 millimeters of total adjustment in 2.5 millimeter increments. And it is beautifully cloaked in that the assembly quality, so impressive, you can't even tell these things are there unless someone notes it for you. And I've met a lot of Overseas owners who did not know about these things. Every individual link on both sides of the bracelet is removable. Every individual link can be removed for precise sizing, and they even include intermediate sized links to further fine tune. A little note of criticism, and it comes from a place of love: only the clasp feels like a default design purchased unmodified from the supplier. In fact, you can see the manufacturer's initials right on there, so they're not even trying to cloak it. But since this is a part that's mostly unseen and it has trigger release, which I prefer over friction fit and clamshells, I'm going to give it passable marks because the rest of the bracelet is so damn awesome. Remember, this is class leading in terms of the number of features you get. Jumping in the box, let's see. We have G Mood saying a clasp can make or break a bracelet. We've also got a bracelet that might make or break a clasp. I'm going to let you guys decide when we get to Grand Seiko. We've got Kian Bani saying, as someone with extremely small wrists, 14 centimeters, how would you all recommend trying to make sure bracelets would fit correctly if some ADs won't resize one before purchasing? I would say that unless there's something permanent that has to be changed about the bracelet, you need a better AD. There's nothing about a bracelet on a luxury watch that's the equivalent of a strap you need to cut to length. If they can't take out pins or they can't remove a screw, you need a better dealer. They're not qualified to pass judgment on the integrity of that watch if they can't size a bracelet. Okay, other than that, I would just say find a better dealer, or maybe if you're getting the best price from that dealer, go to a better dealer that will size the watch and then go back to buy. I don't know. I feel like something sketchy is going on when they won't size a watch to fit before the purchase. Andrew T saying, like those vintage fabric-like gold Piaget bracelets. Yes, something like that is in tonight's show. Andrew T. Breguet also made some beautiful bracelets. Kevin C. saying, even some Chinese watch brands are making killer bracelets. That's true. Atelier Wen with the Perception did some really, really nice pieces. Also, Chan and Toledano have done some really nice pieces out of China. Security. Here comes the controversial one, guys. This is all about Grand Seiko bracelets and clasps, but the clasps and the bracelets generally with Grand Seiko are the biggest blind spot where Japan's best known luxury watch still trails the quality of Western rivals. On the steel SBGA 229 and SBGA 231, that's the titanium version of the spring drive diver. You have these pin sleeve links that look and feel kind of flimsy. You've got strap tool holes in the clasp, which I don't necessarily love, and generally less substantial feel in the hand that betrays the value origins of the Grand Seiko brand in an era when the company has tried very hard to bury that image. That said, the dive bracelets offer a few helpful refinements. That is the bracelet right there on an SBGA 229. But they offer refinements in the form of 2 locks on the clasp. This is why this bracelet gets top marks for security. You have triggers, so you have to press the triggers to open this after you lift the clamshell. Both must be released to open the clasp, so accidental deployment in a deep water marine environment is almost impossible. Unlike most Swiss divers, too, the Grand Seiko dive extension system is designed so that the range of extension can be varied without opening up the clasp. And that's a solid safeguard against dropping a dive watch over water. So double locking with the clamshell and the triggers, plus the on-the-wrist adjustability. That is why I say this gives you the most security of any clasp, even if the feel in the hand and the bracelet quality are not peers to their rivals. What you get in a brutalist sense is going to be the most secure and give you the most peace of mind. For its functional excellence, the Grand Seiko bracelet makes the cut despite its many self-induced qualitative headwinds. Now it's time for Grand Seiko to build a bracelet that feels as solid and as expensive as Rolex. Speaking of which, you may be wondering, where is Rolex in this awards show? Well, you have to compete to win, and as with the GPHG, Rolex has taken itself out of the running, so it cannot be part of this discussion. And it's unfortunate because the Dive Clasp Award that you just saw would have been theirs otherwise. So sometimes you pull yourself out of the running for an award you would have easily won. Viewer wrist shots number 2. Darren S. rolls with his Panerai Rajimir 1382 and Ineos Grenadier SUV, which is BMW powered, so question to the field, do we consider this to be BMW's answer to the G-Wagon? P. Rao rolls in his Mazda with the Glasuta Original Panamatic Lunar in green. Ruben S. of Atlanta and his IWC Portuguese chronograph take in watches tonight, both in good taste. Ryan P. and his Omega Speedmaster Mark 40 fly on the Airbus in the A220 cockpit. So we have an analog watch with a digital cockpit. Very cool. Brandon R. joins us on a sunny day with his Derike & Co. Guy Allen C edition. Love the colors. Send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at the1916company.com to see your pieces on these pixels. What's going on in the box? We have Theo in the box, Conrad in the box. We have Sutats in the box. We have many M's and Longview and Aiden Page. Welcome to one and all. We have a question from Aiden. Best steel bracelet under 10K on the market other than Rolex in terms of sturdiness and feel. I'm going to say Omega Seamaster Diver 300 meter in steel. It's very impressive. Or consider this. Ball hydrocarbon original. A lot of Ball bracelets feel tough enough to anchor the battleship Missouri. So Ball, take that into consideration. What else is going on here? We have Eric Nielsen. Last spring in Europe, I got to try on both the Chopard Alpine Eagle in blue dial and steel and Vacheron 222 yellow gold. The VC felt more firm in a way that for me allows a less perfect fit. That is a very rigid bracelet. And at least in that sense, it may have less play than the Chopard, but it's also stiffer, less comfortable, and less flexible in the way you want it to be flexible. So I'm not giving that award to the 222 bracelet, even though it is very solid and substantial. What else happened in the box here? A comment from Andy M. GP Laureato used under 10K steel bracelet. Excellent. Simon Holt saying Ineos is a British-owned, French-built Land Rover Defender competitor with 3-liter BMW engines. That's true. Jim Radcliffe was all in on Brexit, and then he took his plans to build that thing in the UK, and he moved to France. So Sometimes with like guys like Jim Dyson and Radcliffe, you don't listen to what they have to say about Brexit because they say one thing and then they do the other. That's often the way it is, though. Aiden Page saying, thoughts on non-articulating bracelets like the one on the Santos. I find it unappealing when a watch can't sit flat when placed face up. I actually like the bracelet on the Santos for a lot of reasons. It would be like honorable mention after the Vacheron for most and best features, but I guess it makes it harder to photograph your watch. I'm not going to fault it for that, though. I would say the controversy would be a manacle-like bracelet. Think Cartier Bangle, or what was it, the Air Racer bracelet from Breitling, where it literally feels like something you'd wear in prison, and it's completely rigid. So, let's jump now to the best bracelets in watchmaking, next installment. The question of feel and appearance are integral to the impression a buyer receives from a luxury watch, or any luxury product if you think about it. Hermes bags, Rolls-Royce leather interiors, Roland Iten belt buckles, the way they work, the way they feel, the action of their releases, and Victorinox knives. The expectation of refinement is always very high. A watch simply can't achieve this level of satisfaction if the bracelet execution falls short. So, as important as it is for them to feel good, they have to look and feel good at the same time. For aesthetics, the best bracelet on the market right now is the new mesh style, the Milanese on the 2025 JLC Reverso Or Deco, as they call this one. There's nothing here that's technically innovative or exclusive. I mean, mesh bracelets, you find them across the hobby on many different brands. But something about this one works. This watch is more than just the sum of its parts. This is a timepiece of extraordinary presence, and I know because I saw it in Geneva for Watches and Wonders. The appearance of the Milanese chainmail with the rose gold reverso case and the granular gold dial is a fantastic example of holistic product design in action, and it really is quite special. When I saw this watch at Watches and Wonders, it struck me as an expensive but exceptional effort in a JLC model year that seems to be mostly given to various types of complication. This model has none of those, but it's a stunner, and you can see it has that rare quality of looking better the closer you get. And the bracelet is the exclamation mark on a watch that would have looked decent even with a leather strap. Frankly, this would have been a great model because the dial is singular and the size is perfect. But wow, the way this bracelet acts as the exclamation mark on the statement. The clasp design allows the bracelet to be sized without pinholes in the mesh, so it's super clean and seamless. At close range, its refined details continue to dazzle, and you'll find nothing objectionable here. Aesthetics aside, I would say that this model is fairly close in size to the widely loved Grand Seiko Reverso of the 1990s. It's just over 45 millimeters lug to lug. JLC might have gotten ambitious with the retail price of $41,300 here, but at least no one will look at your watch and suspect it costs any less than that. It really does look its price. And the look is $1 million. Okay. Durability. Let's address the black elephant in the room. And the black elephant is, of course, the most durable watch, bracelet, and case of this model year. Until we get an example of the F. Journe Chronomètre Furtif in tungsten carbide and see one that's been through the ringer on a client's wrist, we're in guess mode on that watch. But the pitch is that you're looking at something over 1,300 Vickers that's going to be close to 9 on the Mohs scale, which would almost be the equivalent of a sapphire crystal in terms of scratch resistance. I see a lot of Journe. We will have one of these, and we may even have it before the end of the year at the rate we go through Journe. So I will let everyone know exactly how this thing has fared in the real world, because the pitch from Journe is that it is well nigh indestructible and almost indelible. I would also say that AP's ceramic bracelets get high marks for scratch resistance on intricately decorated surfaces, and this might be the perfect material for those sort of micro-decorated, hand-finished bracelets that are the first thing to get disfigured when you buy one of these watches. Ceramic seems like a perfect match for your Laureato, for your Royal Oak, but there's also here a chance of chips and fractures on ceramic that aren't possible on our durability bracelet category winner. That category winner comes from Zin, which has a solid track record of equipping some of the toughest bracelets in the business and at very fair prices. Tegament, which is their hardening process, carbon diffusion, it's legendary for a reason. Now, it creates a surface that's almost as hard as ceramic. When I had my tegamented case on my EZM 1.1, I would take a key and aggressively scrape the side of my watch and people would look horrified. And then I would wipe the remnants of the key off the side of the watch, which had no marks whatsoever. If it can put up with that, the desk diving that you do as you type on your computer isn't gonna leave a mark. These things are incredibly tough. I mean, you would almost need quartz and diamond to scratch them. If you need knuckle armor, I'm talking a brass knuckle, or better in this case, to knock the gold teeth out of a gangster in a back alley, this is your bracelet. Granted, that's not exactly how Zin markets it, but it's a good yardstick for durable construction. It feels good too. And there you go, there's a U1 on my wrist. They're all Media Blast, which is universally the finish Zin uses on Tegament, and it has a little bit of a darkness to it, maybe a yellow tint, but it's a very cool industrial aesthetic that matches the image of the brand and the watches. This bracelet only costs a few $100s, like $540 if you buy it as an accessory, which by the standards of this absurd hobby almost makes it free. I mean, you're talking 2 or 3 Rolex bracelet links, maybe 1 link in a Nautilus bracelet for the whole thing. Another worthwhile feature of this bracelet, and this contributes to the durability, is that they use hex screws in the removable links of the bracelet, which allow these screws to take more torque for greater security, but also resist stripping out, which is a chronic problem with flatheads. And they don't resort to pin sleeves, which are cheaper and can't be stripped out, but again, are cheaper. Hex screws are a really cool solution. They come with an extensible dive clasp, so that's really cool even on models that are not divers. It's great to be able to wear it over a thick winter coat or a sweater. Very, very cool. Okay, price. This is also an important topic, and as with Zin, Oris offers a very competitive price on its bracelet. If you're going to buy an Oris Aquis 5-day, you're getting a great movement and a very affordable bracelet. Go out and buy the bracelet under $400 US for a very credible watch with a 10-year warranty and a 10-year service interval and a 5-day power reserve. It's shock resistant, water resistant, and robustly anti-magnetic, and the bracelet is up to the standard of the movement. Buy it as original equipment on an Aquis diver and you get the entire package for $3,900 and it feels as good as it looks. Oops, we got a wrong slide there. That's okay. Style is premium and well tailored to the larger design of the complete watch. It doesn't look like a tacked on part. One could almost argue that this is better integrated into the diver than bracelets on Omega Seamasters and Rolex Submariners. Take a look there, it's almost an integrated bracelet watch, and you can see that the finishing is nuanced, the taper is elegant, and it doesn't look like a sub $4,000 timepiece, or a bracelet that costs under $400 US. There's a Vacheron-like quick release system that feels quite solid in motion. There's a robust folding clasp with a release trigger. Thick gauge steel is used. It does not feel cheaply stamped. There's a fold-out extension that's milled thick and operates crisply, and removable links here are fixed by flathead screws, not pin sleeves, which is a bit of a surprise at this price point. So Oris, for delivering all of that for under $400 and the complete watch for under $4,000, you are best on price in the bracelet space. Okay, rarity. In theory, I would say that the yellow gold Langadotograph, which as a watch model probably only exists in 30 pieces, there are some examples of it out there with I believe Willendorf made factory bracelets. And Wayco once told me that the yellow gold Dotograph was his all-time grail, and that with the bracelet, the grail of grails. Considering how few of the Dotographs first generation exist in yellow gold, and then even fewer of them have the bracelet, that's gotta be the rarity marker until this thing showed up. Because I do have strong feelings here. Great watch. I'm wondering how many people will order the $53,000 platinum bracelet, which Zenith offers optionally on the $49,000 Chronomètre Georges Favre Jacot. So you've got a watch that costs just under $50,000 with an accessory bracelet that costs 53 grand. So, how many people are going to feel the need to step up to this thing? That's a valid question. My guess is that the anniversary edition, being a 160-piece limited series, will inspire roughly 10% of the buyers to get the bracelet, which is going to wind up putting us somewhere between a dozen and 2 dozen. And it's a great watch. Platinum, handmade, a movement worthy of Patek Philippe, but with the kind of style and quirkiness only Zenith can achieve. A watch that has a lapis lazuli dial beautifully rendered. Everything about this piece exhausts superlatives. And I thought it was my favorite watch of Watches and Wonders 2025. But the bracelet is guaranteed rarity since it more than doubles the price of the watch. And I will be shocked if the take rate here is more than 10%. All right, let's see what's going on tonight. Not a big crowd. We're stuck at about 290 concurrent viewers. Let's see if we can get that over 300 before we're done tonight. We got Irony saying Longines bracelet for the Hydro Conquest GMT is fantastic. Kevin C saying $394 for a bracelet is like buying a Seiko 5 GMT. True, but not everyone wants a Seiko 5 GMT. We have Eric Nielsen. We have Pelagic 6 joining in. JD saying, I love the aging of DLC. Great patina on 80s customized watches. When they're not badly gouged or scratched, when it's more like a burnishing, it can be quite attractive. Eric Nielsen saying, between the keyed Zin or the thrown JLC Tides of Time, I can't pick which was more awesome. Well, they're equally great for different reasons. We have Michael saying, I like my Oris 65 metal bracelet, slim and comfortable. Krishna saying, I'm a sucker for beautiful shiny bracelets, maybe a micro quick adjustment. SVH saying, I own a U1 as my first watch and now bought the U50 SL. And Mark S saying, my desk is made of diamond. Wow, you're like a Russian gangster. Cool. What's it like being an oligarch? Okay, jumping back to our topic of the evening. Viewers shots number 3. I asked you answered. Jim R meets his dream watch, the Lange und Söhne Zeitwerk in white gold. Looking good as ever. Ben H rolls with his VW Gold. Well, it's actually... It's a Golf R, I almost said GTI, but it's a Golf R 8th generation, and the Rolex Explorer 2 on a rubber B-strap. Love the ink too. Jim M, watches with his watches. He's got watches tonight in the background, and his lovely IWC Ingenieur Perpetual Calendar, 2025 model. Saurabh P shares his new Tudor Black Bay 54 Lagoon Blue, another 2025 model on a bright day. Michael A visits the National Gallery in Washington, D.C. with his Omega Seamaster Diver 300 meters. Send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at the1916company.com to see your wrist on my list. Perpetual calendars I love, a topic I perpetually enjoy. Since nobody buys a bracelet without a watch attached, I needed to balance tonight's programming with a few actual watches, and perpetual calendars are probably my favorite complication, even though I still think the alarm is the most useful. Here are a few of my favorites. I don't want to dive too deeply into multi-complications, which is why, for example, there aren't any grand complications or the like. We're going to stick to watches that are pretty much just perpetual calendars. H. Moser & C Endeavor Perpetual Tantalum, 42 millimeters, solid gold hammered dial with a gradient aqua blue enamel coating fired on the top, blue-gray tantalum case, enamel gold hammered dial, Andreas Streller bidirectional perpetual calendar, and yeah, 42 millimeters. I could wear it. This is one of my recent dream watches. A 7-day power reserve, twin barrels, advertised 7 days. In fact, it'll run for almost 9. $89,000, so a lot of money, but you get a lot of watch. This Endeavor is a great watch, but also keep an eye on pre-owned, where I think you probably get it for more like 70. There's not a lot out there, but they are out there. IWC Portuguese Eternal Calendar. A bit of a surprise GPHG Aiguidor winner last year. I didn't see this one coming, not for the Aiguidor, but arguably more interesting for how it looks, with a platinum case and a layered sapphire dial featuring a glass box profile within and without and several different applications of lacquer. A striking looking watch that costs about 3 times as much or more relative to a standard Portuguese perpetual, but it is the Eternal Calendar. So about 174,000 US dollars. It has a 45 million year moon phase and a 400-year perpetual calendar. Those are the adjustment intervals. But I think you really buy this for the way it looks and the way it makes you feel. It is just a little bit more elite in appearance than a standard Portuguese or perpetual in rose gold for $49,900. Patek Philippe 6159G. This bowed at Watches and Wonders. I saw it in person. I loved everything about it. 39.5 millimeters, white gold, smoked sapphire dial so you can see the works beneath, retrograde perpetual calendar, and it's well loomed, which you might not expect. Patek watches keep getting more and more practical. $123,609, and I don't think they will have any to spare. MB&F. Legacy Machine Perpetual Evo. Here's an unusual combination of horlogerie with sports watch genre. For the beauty of the pieces that go into it, it is finished at a Voutilanen level, there's no doubt. The beauty of the engineering, which uses a mechanical processor by Stephen McDonnell and a base 28-day month, it's very difficult to damage because it has an individual pusher adjuster for each calendar display and a blocker system. And you have shock resistance. You have water resistance such that you can swim with it, and a fully loomed dial, including the calendar. MSRP most recently approached $200,000 for the blue dial in titanium, so not a casual addition for most, but this really could be your one and only watch. Okay, viewer wrist shots number 4, Adam K. Kayaks on Cayuga Lake in Ithaca, New York with his Zelos swordfish. More good ink there. Professor Adrian takes delivery of his new Omega Speedmaster Silver Snoopy 3. Looking good, my man. Jim R. and John L. double up with two different takes on the Omega Speedmaster. Gareth and his Gerard Perregaux Seahawk 2 join Eddie and Iron Maiden in London Stadium during the Iron Maiden pre-show, and Stefan P. of Sweden wins the evening with his Omega DeVille Trésor and 1948 Cadillac Series 75 limousine. Very cool. Send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at the1916company.com to see your pieces right here. And also, a little note, we are going to be varying up the format. It's still going to be 5 p.m. Eastern. It's still going to be live. It's still going to be interactive. It's still going to include wrist shots, but I'm going to have a co-host and test out a 2-host format because I feel like we don't make enough of the live dynamic, which is really the only reason I do the show at 5 p.m. when people stop watching YouTube. So in the interest of trying to get more interaction, make more of the live format, maybe show some watches live, and also hopefully bring in more viewers because it's more fun, we're going to have a multi-host setup going forward. It's on a trial basis, so if you hate it, we can always go back. Thanks to Nick tonight, thanks to you, and until next time, time out.